Hey guys, welcome to our podcast, A Court of Heaven and Hell. I'm Lauren, aka Heaven.
And I'm Ellie. I'm also known as Hel.
And if you don't already know, we are a book podcast currently focusing on the ACOTAR series by Sarah J. Maas. Today, we are going to be covering A Court of Mist and Fury with chapters 61 through 69. So, this will actually be our last episode of coverage for this book. This episode will include plot summaries of each chapter, as well as discussions about characters, foreshadowing, themes, and world building before we get into our theories and Masper's connections. With that being said, at this time, I want to go ahead and give a spoiler warning. We are fully diving in, so we may need to speak about the other books in this series. If you have not finished her other works, then you will be fine until we get to the theories portion, where we will give another spoiler warning at that time. However, if you have not finished the 5 books that are currently out in the ACOTAR series, then you want to save this video and come back when you're done.
Also, please see our show notes for content and trigger warnings. We are an explicit podcast. Also, check out our past episodes where we deep dive into the rest of the Sarah J. Maas universe. We have so many episodes out about Crescent City, Akatar, and Akamas. And lastly, take some time to rate and review us, or if you're watching this video on YouTube, please like and subscribe and make sure to let us know your thoughts in the comments. And now let's get into Mist and Fury. Yay.
Okay.
All right, starting with chapter 61, everyone is geared up to go get the cauldron from the King of Hybern's castle. With the Book of Breathings decoded and in Feyre's possession, they are ready. Rhysand and Moore will winnow everyone in while Rhys stays at the coast. This is so Rhysand's power is not detected. At the same time, Asriel, Cassian, Moore, and Feyre will go find the cauldron. Asriel and Cassian give their promise to Rhysand to protect Feyre before they winnow off. We are at Hybrid's castle, and it is cruel and ancient looking. They are able to get in from a sea door into the basement, where Azriel quickly takes out the guards on duty. Feyre feels a strong pull of the cauldron calling out to her in the tunnels. They get to a stairwell, and she just knows it's down there. As they descend the stairs, they see the cauldron.
Oh,
Oh,
snap.
finally. Chapter 62. The cauldron is the size of a bathtub and has an ominous vibe to it. It has a type of heartbeat and is filled with swirling black liquid. Feyre puts her hands on it and she feels its power going into her, and she starts to get ready to recite the passage. When Amryn was decoding the Book of Breathings, she found out how to nullify it, which she wrote down for Feyre to say out loud to it. I also want to mention that one of the halves of the Books of Breathing is talking to her into joining the halves, which you're not supposed to do.
We know no.
Oh, yep. Feyre has the urge to be the cauldron's master and decides to join the two halves as Moore curses at her not to. She can't see or talk, and she's nothing and everything at the same time. Asriel snaps her out of it by pulling her back, worried that she isn't okay. But then they hear footsteps entering the room, and he quickly readies his blade to see Jurian standing there. Chapter 63. They all recognize Jurian, and Rhysand quickly winnows in the room as he grabs a book from Feyre and hides it. Jurian asks where Miriam is, and Moore says she's dead. He responds saying that she's a liar and always has been. Knowing the situation is not good, Rhysand tries to winnow them all away, but it's not working. Jurian smirks and tells him that he was to distract them as the king spins his spell. They are not getting out of here, and they cannot use their magic. They walked right into a trap. The spell comes from the King of Hybern's spell book, which Amarantha stole from him in order to get the High Lord's powers 50 years ago, but now he has it. Someone appears from the staircase with shoulder length black hair, practical black clothes, and black hateful eyes. It is the King of Hybern himself. Durian quickly shoots an ash arrow into Azriel's chest. They have no choice but to go along with the King of Hybern. The ash arrow was also coated in bloodbane, and the King of Hybern threatens them by saying he can move the poison straight into Azriel's heart if they do not obey. The castle walls are lifeless with no lights or art, just bland and creepy. They arrive to the throne room, which the King of Hybern's throne is made out of human bones. He says out loud to nobody seen that he has held up his side of the bargain, so he's expecting them to as well. And suddenly, Tamlin and Lucian appear. Oh my God.
Ooh.
Chapter 64. The inner circle is completely shocked that Tamlin and Lucian are there. Feyre feels extremely betrayed. Their agreement was that Tamlin was to let the King of Hybern's armies use the Supreme Court when they take down the wall, and in return, he would give him Feyre, and she is to work for him. Side eye.
Mm.
Tamlin tells Feyre it's time to go home. This is all really bad because now the King of Highburns and his allies know who Rhysand's inner circle is officially, and again, they have no fucking powers to get out of this. Also, Jurian has clearance from the King of Hybern to kill them all. Feyre tells the spell that is holding her that she cannot be held, and somehow it works. As Tamlin is reaching for her, she is able to turn into mist and shadow to get away from his touch. Rhysand punches Tamlin.
Hell yeah.
When Feyre gets her powers back, the whole room notices the mating bond between her and Rhysand. Tamlin yells at Rhysand, asking, "What did you do to her?" And a ton of soldiers come in the room. Feyre is not going to let them take her away, and she's not backing down without a fight. But then the king says it's in her best interest to behave as the four remaining royal queens enter the room with Elaine and Nesta bound and gagged.
Ay, ay, ay. All right. Chapter 65. After revealing the dirty and mistreated sisters, the King of Hybern tells them that he had no interest in the Book of Breathings until they went after it. Durian made a deal and helps the King of Hybern, convincing the queens of the malice of the Night Court and telling them to align with the king. The king provided them with security, and when Azriel repeatedly attempted to infiltrate their palace, it convinced them that Jurian and the king were correct. Feyre interjects to tell them that she will slaughter them if they hurt her sisters, and the king uses this as a means to further his narrative about the Night Court. All the queens care about is the promise that the King of Hybern made them to provide them with eternal youth, and they want a demonstration. The king then reveals that it was Ianthe who provided him with the information on Feyre's sisters, and Feyre is sick, feeling like she is responsible. To his credit, Tamlin does seem shocked by this information. Turns out the king had been in Ianthe's ear for some time, convincing her that he could create a world without high lords where the priestesses were the guiding figures. The king begins his presentation telling them to brace themselves. An explosion of light happens, and Rhys covers Feyre, taking the brunt of the attack, while Cassian protects Azriel. The aftermath is not pretty, with Cassian's wings being shredded. Rhys tries to attack the king, but is stopped by his power, while Tamlin makes a move to grab Feyre, but is deterred when she throws a knife at him. Moore also tries to attack, but stops when the king ends up further hurting Azriel. Unable to stop what's coming, all of them watch as the king demands that his guards throw Elaine in the cauldron. Lucian and Tamlin both try to step in, but are restrained with the rest of them, and Feyre begs the human queens, who refuse to side with her. Even after fighting, Elaine is thrown in. Elaine is removed from the cauldron, soaking and transformed into the most beautiful fae. Lucian is disgusted by the king letting her lie there soaked and gives her his jacket, but she doesn't even acknowledge his presence. The human queens are excited to see that the process does, in fact, work, and next, it's Nesta's turn. Nesta fights hard, but is ultimately dragged over. Cassian also fights his way toward her, trying to fulfill his promise, but ultimately the pain takes him back under. Throwing her in, she manages to stick out one finger and point it at the king, unnerving him as he reads it for the promise that it is. After coming out, it's obvious that Nesta took something a little extra from the cauldron, but she immediately concerns herself with taking care of Elaine. However, Elaine is staring at Lucian as he drops his hands and declares that she is his mate. Chapter 66, Nesta tells Lucian to fuck off, and the king tells the human queens, "See, it's safe," asking who wants to go first, teasing that one of them may find a handsome fae mate as well. The youngest steps forward, and Rhys jumps in, saying if the king wants to make bargains, perhaps they can make one with each other. Feyre cannot bear the thought of Rhys sacrificing himself any further and makes the decision that she will do anything to protect her family. In a very much inspired plan, Feyre uses her powers of day to infiltrate and break the wards. Now all she has to do is act her ass off, and maybe she can get them out of this. Feyre stares at Tamlin as if he is the only thing in the world that makes sense. She calls for him and scrambles away from Rhys. Acting like she doesn't know what's going on, she demands to know what Rhys did to her while simultaneously willing him to get her sisters out. Even though they cannot speak, Rhys understands and plays along at first until Feyre turns to the King of Hybern and asks him to break the bond. Begging for the death to stop, Feyre pleads. Tamlin demands that he do it, threatening Rhys, but Rhys can only plead with Feyre not to let him. Her decision is made, however, and while causing her great physical pain, the king breaks the bond, cleaving her world in two. Chapter 67. Pharaoh wakes up after fainting, seeing more hauling Reese away. Tamlin takes off her glove, exposing that her tattoo is no longer there. The king dismisses Reese, telling him he's free to go, and Az is no longer poisoned. Although hurt, Moore realizes what Feyre has done and winnows her to her sisters, pushing Lucian away and winnowing them out of the castle. Reese follows suit with Cassian and Az, leaving Feyre alone with the rest of the riffraff. This angers the king, who is demanding to know what happened to the wards, and Lucian, who only wants his mate back. Feyre keeps the act up, thanking the king for saving her. The king, moving on, goes to his throne and orders the process of turning the human queens to begin. Jurian makes a snide comment to Lucian, but Feyre slips up, reacting poorly, and Lucian seems to be piecing together that she's not as upset about them having taken her sisters as she should be. Feyre simply says she knows that they'll get them back and demands Tamlin take her home, but Lucian still seems wary. Cutting in, the king asks Feyre where the Book of Breathings is, saying that it was supposed to be with her, and angering when he realizes that it isn't. He does regain control quickly, telling Tamlin to leave, but he will be expected back when they obtain the book. As they go to winnow out, Feyre makes one last statement, declaring she will light the pyres herself for what they did to her sisters. Chapter 68, we're in Reese's point of view. What an interesting switch up. Back at the townhouse, chaos ensues. Amryn is there asking Reese what happened and where Feyre is. Reese is unable to answer, just taking in the scene before him. Az will be okay, but Cassian needs a healer badly to prevent him from losing his wings. Moore winnows in after taking Feyre's sisters to a different location and begins to tell Amryn exactly what happened. Amryn says it's impossible for the king to break the mating bond, and Reese reveals that she's right and what actually happened. Amryn tells him to go get her, but as much as it hurts, Reese knows that Feyre willingly put herself in position so she could become a spy and take down the spring court from the inside. He can still feel and communicate with Feyre through their bond, allowing her to pass on information to him about Tamlin and the King of Hybern. He also reveals the truth no one knew and everyone is shocked about. Feyre is High Lady of the Night Court, his equal in every way. He will wait until the time is right, and then he will do whatever it takes to tear apart their world and dismantle their enemies. Reese declares war. And finally, chapter 69, we're back in Feyre's point of view, and we land back at the Spring Court. Like Jekyll and Hyde, Feyre is outwardly very loving and thankful to Tamlin, while on the inside she is pledging revenge. She reveals to us that the whole thing at the castle was an act, and she now has a glamour over the mating bond tattoo on her other arm. She vows to mislead Tamlin and then take her enemies down one by one. Lucian still seems wary and is questioning Feyre about how she broke free from the bond. Her answers don't seem to satisfy him, but he can only say so much knowing that Elaine is his mate. Tamlin leads her back into the manor, promising she will never have to leave again and that he learned from his mistakes in the past and things will be different this time. It's too late, though, and Tamlin unwittingly leads the High Lady of the Night Court into the heart of his territory.
I hate Tamlin.
I know, I know. I can't.
All right. Let's go ahead and get into our character discussions. We have so many characters and the span of chapters.
Yeah. We can start with the human queens because I just wanted that's like an honorable mention.
Okay.
I fucking cannot stand the human queens, dude. Like the ones that are left. I know we haven't really gotten to interact with Vasa yet, but holy shit, the oldest one, the eldest, God, she's a fucking cunt. I cannot stand her. When Feyre's like, oh, please, please don't do this. And she's just, you should be happy. You deserve to be killed the way that we killed Demetra. And you can consider this a gift that we're only doing this to your sisters. Rich, fuck off. Like, you're a terrible person. Like, women hurting women for what? To better yourself, gain eternal youth, and live forever? Fuck you. I am so happy what happens to the one queen when she goes into the fucking cauldron. I can't.
Sorry you're ugly. I don't
You
know.
deserve it, bitch. Now your outsides match your insides. But
Oh,
yeah.
speaking of the human queens, we finally meet the King of Hybern. I just want to go out and let y'all know that I cannot not picture him as Lord Farquaad from Shrek. That's the only thing I picture of him. I know he's supposed to be like this like gorgeous Man, but I'm sorry, the second that the books he has, like, shoulder length black hair, I just imagine Lord Farquaad. I don't know,
You're
that's so vague.
welcome. I called this man Lord Farquaad from the jump. He's a tiny little man with a superiority complex. He's got a stupid haircut. He thinks himself very self-important when he's just not. Like, can't stand the King of Highburn. Yes, Lord Farquaad all the way.
Yeah, he's a piece of shit, I don't like him.
It's the casualness that he just these, like, people, he just doesn't care, like, even Tamlin, who's supposed to be on his side when he's like, "We didn't agree to this," he's like, "Eh, shut up. Whatever I want goes." He's a real piece of shit, not a cool guy.
Yeah, he sucks. Not a fan, but he like, we've said this so many times in this podcast, but he's just, like, a boring villain.
Yeah, he's not all that he's cracked up to be. He's obviously a piece of shit. What he did to the temples, what we find out that he's done, kidnapping Feyre's sisters and them, he's obviously done some really evil actions, but as far as, like, villains go, like, he's under Amarantha to me, he's non-memorable. He's just whatever. He's gone now. I don't know. Boring is the right word.
Yeah, he's very boring and bland in my opinion. He's not really my favorite villain, but we also need to talk quickly about Tamlin, who gets a great, amazing reappearance here that I wish I never had to read. But
Yeah.
happens, he is a total douchebag and he's makes a deal with the King of Highburn. The thing is that with the deal that got me the most was that he told the King of Highburn that he'll have Feyre work for him.
Yeah.
Oh
That
my god.
after Feyre was begging and begging to be a part of your plans, to be a part of your team, to be on your side, and you were like, "No, I don't want the rest of the world to know what you could do. I don't want this and that." And now that it serves you, all of a sudden, you're gonna pimp her out to the king and make her work for him? Get your fucking ducks in a row, bro. Which is it? Are you comfortable with her working because it benefits you? Or did you want to keep her trapped in the house and not let her do anything because it benefits you? Either way, all I hear is you, you, you. I cannot stand Tamlin. And the fact that he kept trying to go for Feyre when she was like clearly trying to get away from him and fighting him off, I'm like, do you guys not have eyes? Leave this girl alone. She doesn't want shit to do with you. Let her go. But it works out in the end because he stupidly is willing to just believe that she just switched up all of a sudden. Like, "Oh my god, Talon, oh, where have you been? I've been looking for you. They hurt me. Oh, I miss you." Come on, dude. Even Lucian was looking at her.
Mhm. Yeah.
"Wait a second. This seems a little, like, suspicious." And Tamlin's just, "Oh, I got my property back. Everything's right in the world." Fuck you, dude. Fuck you.
Yeah, and having Lucian notice that something's up with Feyre, but Tamlin doesn't, I think really speaks to the different intelligent levels they have.
I don't think Tamlin's smart. Even if Ianthe betrayed him, even the King of Highburn was like, "It did make me question why you never asked her why she knew about breaking bonds and how she knew about all these things, because you're just going through life, "La-di-da-di-da, it's sweet, it's, like, fine, like, I don't need to ask questions, I don't need to I don't need to think for myself why this tithe might not be a good idea or why Feyre might not be happy in this situation." Like, his intelligence level is not high, in my personal opinion, but I'm not gonna sit here and be like, "Oh, he's dumb." But yeah, something's not like clicking there because, like you said, Lucian immediately is asking questions like, "How did you break the bond? Like, what happened when you were there?" And Tamlin's just, "I got my girl back. Everything's gonna be okay." Dude, get your head out of your ass.
I can't stand Tamlin. Oh my god. I can't stand Tamlin.
Stupid. He's
Ugh.
stupid. God.
I
Anyways,
wish he would just go away. I just
like,
want him to go away, please. I don't wanna read any more about him.
he has a couple more things that he has to do in the next book, but yeah, I could care less about his character. I don't know. I'm a Tamlin hater. Whatever, dude. Like, it is what it is. I don't care.
Period.
It's fair.
Sorry. Not really sorry,
Like,
though. We like
hey, if you
Tamlin.
like him, that's okay. I'm not here to tell people what they should and shouldn't do. But for me, it's just not my guy.
He's the type of guy that would be on Facebook commenting on women's posts being like, "Oh, why would you choose a bear? I don't understand, like, why would you choose a bear?" He's one of those guys. I just can't. I'm not gonna get into it, but he sucks. I hate him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyway, moving on. Now we can talk about someone that we do like, but is still unfortunately friends with Hamlin, which is Lucian.
Yeah. Here he is again, not having the greatest moment, but I know he means well. At least as soon as he realized what was going on, he stepped up and tried to interject. And he did go over to Elaine and try to cover her when nobody else was paying attention to the fact that she was like laying there basically undressed. He stepped up. And it isn't his fault technically that Tamlin is his High Lord and has put him in this fucked up position, but at the same time, being a bystander is not great. At some point, you gotta speak up and speak out against somebody doing something wrong. If you don't say anything, eventually you do become part of the problem. And so I'm happy that after this, we start to see him on the up and up. But then I think I've said this before, it does make me a little bit sad that it's almost like it took Elaine being that driving factor for him to finally get that backbone to realize, to open his eyes and see what's really going on with Tamlin and the fucking Spring Court.
Damn, it makes me sad. 'Cause I'm like, "Oh, he's one of those guys that, like, won't call out his friends for being a piece of shit."
Like it's it because
I
I
hate
love
that.
Lucian, so there is like a level of damn. I don't want to say that, but at the same time, it's like it's real. He's the ultimate bystander. He's not a part of the bullying or whatever, but you just keep standing by and supporting this person who's not doing the right thing. At a certain point, we have to speak out against injustice. You can't just not say anything and pretend like it's not happening. And it's eventually he does, but it's also what became your motive. It was this girl that was the reason that you, like, spoke up because you realized that you have allowed the mistreatment of your mate's sister, so in order to ever think that you could possibly be with the woman that you love, you have to make up for the sins that you've done against her sister, basically. That's how I feel about it, which is unfortunate because, like I said, I do love Lucian, and he definitely has his own journey that he has to go on, and in my opinion, he's not as bad as Tamlin, even close to as bad as Tamlin, but yeah, he has let a little bit too much occur without speaking out. Even Reese a couple chapters ago was like, I would have thought at least Lucian would have said
Mhm.
something and would have stepped up and stood up for you. And he didn't when it really mattered. And that makes me sad.
It makes me really sad too, actually. It makes me not dislike him, and definitely I think it changes my opinion on him, like, a little bit. I still
Mhm.
like him, but I'm just like, "Damn, it is really true."
Yeah.
Oh, it's fine. He gets better. He gets
Yeah.
better, but I think now I do understand why some people might not like him,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. When the King of Hybern reveals Tamlin was behind the whole situation, who's standing right next to him?
Mhm.
Lucian. It's ugh. I didn't care the sassy messing with Feyre, not liking her in the beginning in the first book, like,
Mhm.
that didn't bother me as much because it's like this girl comes into your court, you gotta test her, but he also did help Tamlin trick I don't wanna get too far into it, but he also did help Tamlin trick falling in love with him to bring a curse. I don't know. We
Interesting. That's
yeah,
all really true.
yeah.
What? I'm over here like, why do I like him so much then? Damn.
It's okay. I really like
Oh,
him too, I don't know why, like, it's like he's got a good personality, he's a fun character. He's
yeah.
like
I don't think he has ill intentions. I don't
yeah.
think he's doing this on purpose. I just don't think that he like really knows what to
Mhm.
do in this situation. But yeah, I don't really know what else to say about that. I
Yeah.
just like he just isn't really aware of how to deal with it.
Mhm. That's fair. It's a struggle and he does go through it. He gets better and Feyre does call him out for it. So there's that too. But
Mhm.
definitely not his greatest moments here in this book. This book is not the best showing for Lucian. But it gets better. So there's that to look forward to at least.
Yeah, I would much rather read a Lucian book over a Tamlin book any day.
I would rather read about Balthazar than Tamlin.
I'm gonna
I'd rather read about literally anybody, Draken and Miriam, give me a Callias and Vivane, like anybody other than Tamlin, but that's okay because one day we might get a Tamlin book and I just have to live with that.
I really hope not, but I will unfortunately read it.
I will
We will
too.
unfortunately talk about it.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
Hey, but watch it, like, change our mind.
I know exactly.
Oh,
You
no.
never know. You never know. But I do hope that Lucian gets his story told first.
Oh, same. Yeah. I think most people in the fandom would 100% agree with that, so
Yeah. Also, Lucian's story is way more tragic than Tamlin's story. Like,
Mhm.
not to do the whole comparison of like trauma or anything like that. Like, everybody's story is their own, but Lucian has a way more fucked up past than Tamlin, in my opinion. Tamlin's kind of a spoiled brat. Lucian has really actually been through some shit and is trying to restabilize his life. So I understand why he feels so loyal and like coming from like a soldier's perspective of you fall in line and you do what you're told and he has to stand by his lord and be the best example, especially because Tamlin did take him in when he had nobody else. I do understand that loyalties to a certain extent. So that I think that's part of why I can't just like completely write Lucian off. I do understand where he's coming from. Like you said, that it's not like he has some ill intention. I just think he has this
Mhm.
misguided loyalty towards Tamlin that sometimes he doesn't, it's really like he can't separate himself from it like he probably should.
Okay. So also in these chapters, we learned that Lucian's mate is Elaine. Oh my
Oh
god.
man. After last week's episode, this is such a different experience for me.
Yeah. The first time I read Mist and Fury, these chapters, I was just like, what the fuck is happening? I was eating it up. But I was like, I did not see a Lucian and Elaine happening. I didn't even think that was gonna be a thing. Oh my god, there's just so many things that happened in the span. I was just like, what the
Yeah,
fuck?
absolutely.
um, but so unfortunately, in these chapters, Elaine and Nesta are kidnapped. They are taken prisoner by the King of Hybern, and they unfortunately are basically leveraged to get Feyre to follow the King of Hybern's plan. And then they're also sacrificed in a fucking way, being like, we don't know what's gonna happen when we throw you into this cauldron, but it might make you Fey, hopefully. We'll see. We gotta do a
Mhm.
little test.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? So, yeah, so Elena and Nesta get turned into Fae against their will. Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, it is absolutely disgusting. It should have never happened, and to take anybody's choice away is always a terrible thing. But then on the other hand, I'm like, "But is your life so bad now?" Like, did end up working out in y'all's favor in the long run. I know you didn't wanna go live in the Fae world with the but, like, it ended up being okay, and I do think that there is a certain amount of this is I think what we were talking about last week was like, this was happening. They were meant to be Fae. There's a bigger thing at play here. It's like what they keep talking about with the cauldron. And I think Amryn talks about it in, it might be Silver Flames, but Amryn talks about how like things are supposed to happen and they're not going to wait around. She's talking to Reese about the made weapons or whatever and becoming High King of Prithian. And she's like, the cauldron wants something to happen. And if you're not going to step up and take it, then eventually it's going to move like onto something else. That is just a statement about how there are things that are supposed to happen. And with all of the foreshadowing that we've gotten up until this point, all of the things that we know, like the fact that all of their mates are Fae, like if they were supposed to be Fae one way or the other, they were all going to be made eventually. Now, does that take away the trauma or this whole situation? No, getting kidnapped, being like dragged out of your house, tied up, thrown in the cauldron in front of all these people while you have absolutely no choice and you're fighting for your life. It's fucked up. It's not a good moment for the king. It's terrible that everybody has to sit there and just bear witness to it. And there's nothing that anybody can do. But it wasn't necessary part of the story. And I feel like if it didn't happen like this, it was going to happen some other way.
I wish it happened a different way because they both really have an awful time for a hot minute
Yeah.
afterwards. It takes them a long time. And then they're both still really healing from it. We haven't really gotten like Elaine's point of view yet from what happened. We've gotten Nesta's from her book and like what she saw when she went into the cauldron, stuff
Yeah.
like that. But we're still waiting for Elaine's, and I'm curious to see what her story is going to be about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of what I'm saying in like the sense of if it had happened another way, it wouldn't be the story that it is. Feyre didn't have some great experience turning Fae either. She got murdered. She got killed
Mhm.
and then they had to do it to bring her back. Her trauma was, if you ask me, way more worse and terrifying. She went through a lot more to have to get to her journey of becoming Fae than they did. So, yes, it's still fucked up, and yes, obviously it's not good, but it's the story. It's why these books are so, like, good. If everything was just happy hunky dory and there was no, like, struggle and no things that they have to get over and fight for their happiness and acclimating, then it wouldn't be ACOTAR. The whole first part of this book is Feyre dealing with the trauma of becoming Fae. So, I don't know. As much as it's fucked up, I'm not like, "Oh, I wish it happened differently because then I wouldn't have the books, like, you wouldn't have Silver Flames if this didn't happen." You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm not disagreeing with that. I get it's part of the plot, whatever, but it still sucks.
Yeah. Oh, all I was saying about after last week's episode, the whole, like, Elaine being Lucian's mate, that just hit
Mhm.
so much differently after us discussing the whole basically prophecy of her being Day, we don't know at this point that Lucian is the heir to the Day court, but like knowing that, it just like this whole scene is so different in my mind when they're looking
Mhm.
at each other and Lucian's like, "You're my mate," and Elaine's not really acknowledging it, but I think she knows deep down that it's true. She's just not ready to admit it because she's also in love with another man, a man who she now has to deal with the fact that is going to hate her and would willingly hunt her down because she's something that he despises. So yeah, I think she's going through a lot, but I do think like looking at this with like new eyes, it's just such a different experience. And I think that Elaine also knows that they're mates.
Yeah, I definitely don't doubt that they're mates. I am just curious if they're gonna stay mates or not. That's where my question is. 'Cause, like, I've seen theories of people being like, "What if Tamlin and Elaine are actually mates and Lucian noticed and he stepped in?" I'm like, "No, no, no, no."
No, I don't see that.
This that would be weird. I'm sorry. That'd be weird as fuck if
Yeah.
Elaine actually mates with Tamlin. That'd be weird as shit. You were engaged to my sister. That is weird.
Yeah, that's the one thing that, like, I don't know that I'd be able to get past that.
I couldn't.
Elaine being with the person that did so much damage to Feyre, it's already struggle enough that I have to sit there and admit that Lucian did all that shit to her and let all that shit happen and she's might end up with him. Tamlin's a step too far. She's been with your sister, dude. There's
Yeah, it's
lines
weird.
even I'm like, mm-mm.
That's so weird. But no, I literally never see that happening for multiple reasons because one, I think the fandom would riot
Yeah.
about it, and two, Nesta would really never
Yeah.
allow that to happen.
Yeah. Nesta would
She
probably
fucking hates
kill
Tamlin.
Tamlin before
Oh,
she
yeah.
yeah. Mm-mm,
Which
mm-mm.
please do.
Go off, sis. But yeah.
Oh, since we're talking about Nesta and Elaine, we do have to talk about mate who we don't know if they're mates yet, but still know. Cassie.
Yeah. Cassian. Man, poor Cassian at this point, man. That man throws himself in front of Azriel to protect him, his brother, and ends up doing such damage to himself. Even when they get back to the townhome, Reese is like, he needs a healer now, or he might not ever fly again. And he specifically says it would be worse than death for an Illyrian to basically lose their ability to fly. And so you just know Cassian just really loves the people that he chooses to love and that he would do anything for them. And what a great sacrifice that was. And he didn't even think twice about it. He just threw himself in front of Az and then even damaged, broken, fucked up, can't like in so much pain, he can barely stay awake. He's crawling over to Nesta trying to stop these dudes from fucking throwing her in the cauldron. And it's just so sad. I don't know. I hate how Nesta reacts to him in this moment, but she's going through her own shit. She's fighting for her life at the same time. So I understand it too. She just had a very traumatic experience happen, but it's just damn, like this man really tried. It's so unfortunate that he couldn't keep his promise to you, but it wasn't for lack of trying.
I love Cassian. He's such a golden retriever. I'm obsessed with him.
I don't even know. I would say he's more I'm trying to think German Shepherd maybe. He's so protective and so badass, but also cute and snuggly and funny and sweet. Like he's I don't know, like he's definitely not some pushover. Like he's a boy. And if that's not exhibited by the fact that he's still fighting as he's basically half dead on the fucking ground, then I don't know what is. But yeah, Cassian's that guy.
Cassian is that guy, period.
Cassian literally has his great moment, not even after, I guess this is before. But so Azriel, unfortunately, wasn't really able to do much to help during this whole situation because he gets hit with that poison arrow pretty early
Mhm.
on. So he's just has to be forced to witness the whole ordeal. Thankfully, the King of Hybern does heal him or unpoison him before he sends them off, but he's still in pretty bad shape when they get back to Valaris. So he doesn't really have much to do in these chapters, unfortunately. He's just resigned to sit on the sidelines. He's there, he's still present. But yeah, I know that had to be hard for him too, especially hearing that he was part of the reason that the human queens decided to align with Hybern anyways, because he kept trying to break through their defenses. And that was their sign that the Night Court was not this good place that they were trying to present themselves as. So I know he's probably struggling a little bit right now.
I love him.
Yeah, we do love Asriel. Quiet little misunderstood death man.
Mhm.
I guess Amren's not really much in this stretch of chapters at all. She's a bit mentioned very
Mhm.
little bit when they get back to Valaris. I will say that it's so interesting to see her almost chastise Reese for letting them take Feyre. He's like, "You need to go get her. She's your mate. Why is she not with you?" Especially once they find out she's High Lady of the Night Court. She's like, "Go get her. You cannot have her in this other part of the world surrounded by our enemies." She's so worked up about it. And I was like, I didn't even know she really cared that much. It was really interesting. More does the same thing, but I would expect it a little bit more from her. So it's just interesting. But Amryn being worked up about it was a cute moment. I don't know. I just don't see Amryn as being emotional or really putting herself out there like that. But she just kept being like, "Where is she? Where is she?" She really was worried about what happened to Feyre. And speaking of Moore has a couple good parts in this chapter. She steps up. She does try to fight off the king and Jurian until Az becomes in danger. And you could tell that she's actually pretty powerful, even though we still don't quite know exactly what her powers are, what she can do. She is a warrior.
Yeah. The one thing I wanted to mention about her in these chapters is Durian says that she never tells the truth and that she's a liar. And I'm like, okay, why does this bitch lie? It bothers me so much. I don't
It's just
know.
really interesting.
It makes me so sus of her.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit like,
You hiding?
what's
What
actually
are you
going
hiding?
on here?
Oh my god. Okay, I saw this theory online. I don't remember it straight from whatever.
Mhm.
But basically it was like, what if more power of truth is that she's able to keep people from saying the truth? And Asriel was obsessed with her because he has the instinct to know that something's up with her, but she was like almost putting magic on him where he can't tell the truth about her. I was like, shut up.
That would
That's
be a
that'd be crazy.
lot. That's deep. I'd be like, "What the hell?" That's deep. I
I
would
was
think that
like,
somebody would be able to, like, I don't know. Amren's more powerful than her, and so is Reese. So it would be really interesting if she could, like, I don't know.
maybe she's more powerful in different aspect because if she has the power of truth, then why if she actually had that power, I'm thinking like, why is Azrael the one who interrogates people? If your power is true, wouldn't you just be able to do your little magic stuff and have them
Right. But I think me personally, I think and I might actually touch on this a little bit, but I feel like truth is a wording thing. I don't think she can literally make people tell the truth, and I don't think she's obligated to tell the truth. I think that we have very clearly been told multiple times, like, it's almost like Sarah J. Maas telling us, yes, her power is truth, but it's not in the way that you think that it is. I liken it more to like when she's using the Veritas orb and she can show things that have happened or things that are going to happen or whatever, like not necessarily a seer ability, but more along the lines of that. But I don't think when she says my power is truth, it means literal, I'm the most honest person in the world, or I always tell the truth, or whatever the case may be. I'm not saying that's not possible. That would be crazy. The magic that would have to happen for that to be a thing, I guess, like Eris, all these people are saying that they know these things about her, but nobody can say anything, or nobody is saying anything. It
Mhm.
would be really interesting if that was in some way binding people from saying anything, but I more see that with Eris or even Jurian, like maybe knowing something that they can't speak on versus Az still loves her and is obsessed with her. But yeah, I don't know. Moore is a very complicated, very interesting character. And I'm actually going to talk about her a little bit more in the theories portion as well, her powers and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like Sarah J. Maas has misled us a little bit with the whole truth thing.
That doesn't honestly make sense. I need an explanation. I need it to be the best explanation ever because I just don't know how to feel about more. I
Yeah.
feel like I don't know anything about her. And I feel
Yeah.
like she just has all the secrets. And I'm like, what are your secrets? What are your
See,
secrets? I need to know.
that doesn't bother me, honestly, it just makes her an intriguing character to me. She hasn't done anything to make me be like, I don't like her. I know a lot of people feel the way that I think you feel, but I know a lot of people feel like that. You're not the first person I've heard be like, "Yeah, I don't trust her, there's something off about her, we don't know enough about her." So I definitely understand where you're coming from. But for me, she's just an intriguing character, and I'm fine with us getting little bits and pieces of her story. It's hard for me to think that she could be anything less than genuine when she is so loyal, so protective. She's so loyal of Miriam, these girl friendships that she cultivates. I don't know. I do really like more. So it's very interesting. But I do hear where people are coming from with the whole it's too much. mystery going on with her. We're
Mhm.
5 books in and we don't know shit about her. And I'm like, yeah, that is true, but I don't know.
I don't dislike her. I just think that there's a lot of unanswered questions about her that
Yeah.
hopefully we get an answer to sooner than later. There's so much. I'm just like,
Yeah. I feel like it's just gonna keep being a slow rollout with her. I feel like, though,
yeah,
when it is revealed, it's going to be a connection. That's all I'll say about it. Because I don't wanna say too much in this portion, but yeah, I feel like it's going to be like a big reveal of a connection to something. I think it will be like a mind-blowing moment. I don't know if it'll be like a whole book where it's like a unfurling of her story and you delve like really deep into everything that
no, I
happened.
don't want a whole book,
Like,
honestly.
yeah, I don't know if it'll be that, but I do think that we're gonna get a few more like little backstories and finding out what really happened in some
Mhm.
of these situations, and then the reveal is gonna be good, I think. I hope.
I think it's gonna be good too.
I hope.
I hope.
Yeah.
If she ends up being good or evil, either
Yeah.
way, I'm okay with it. I'm
Yeah.
neutral.
That's
Neutral
fair.
more. Yeah,
But okay, that's all of our side characters for the most part. God, that was a lot of them today.
I know so many every single
So
character
many.
is in this portion
Yeah, that is
right
true.
now.
And half of them are assholes, at least right now. But yeah, that was good. And then finally, we can go ahead and talk about Feyre and Rhysand, our 2 main characters. Even I don't even know if I would say that they're more of a main character in this portion. Everybody's just got their
Yeah.
shit going on right now. But obviously, they're the main characters of the books. We talk about them. You can go ahead because you think
Okay.
most of.
Feyre, during these chapters, she makes a really not great decision, but then she makes an awesome decision.
Yeah.
So, kinda contradict, I think, a little bit with her, but when she put the book together, I was like, "Bro."
Yeah, it's like everybody told you not to do that.
Like,
Everybody,
the one thing.
don't do
And she was
this.
like, "The cauldron's telling me to."
Maybe she really wasn't in control of her actions. Maybe the cauldron really was, like, guiding her. But
Mhm.
yeah, no, it was like, "Come on, dude. Come on. Everyone
Yeah,
told you not to do this."
yeah, but of course, because everyone was telling her not to do it, I'm like, "She's gonna do it."
Yeah, it's like the discord has gotta be in there. But yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That was dumb. There's no other way. Oh,
Unfortunately, it was stupid, but it's okay, we all make mistakes.
absolutely. I've done
Like
dumb shit.
yeah, same. I'm like, "Damn, if I had these 2 halves of books at my hands on this fucking magical ass cauldron where, like, the whole world comes from, and it's telling me, 'Put the books together,' I'd be like, 'Bro, should I?'" Like,
Yeah, you're like, "Wait, what's gonna happen?" But it does lead me to believe that maybe there was less her control and she was more influenced to do it because it's like,
it was persuading her,
yeah.
so but anyway, she does thankfully thinks on her feet extremely quick to get out of the situation with the King of Hybern, ends up saving everyone to get the fuck out of there. Unfortunately, she does have to sacrifice herself to go back to a piece of fucking shit.
But she almost seems apt to do it. So, she was like, "I'm gonna seize my opportunity to fuck this guy over." And she does it. Because to be fair, when she broke the wards, which is also another badass thing that Feyre can do,
Mhm.
what else can't this bitch do? She's like, "Oh, that's right. Spell cleaver. Let me just dig in and pull that one out real quick." And she uses Helian's power to break the fucking wards. She could have at that moment realistically just grabbed her sisters and winnowed out of there. They could have all just escaped. Once she did that, then Reese and everybody else would have known that they could also do the same thing. She didn't have to set herself up for that situation. I feel like she was like, "This is my opportunity and I'm gonna take it." And so I do have to respect her for that because that's pretty
Mhm.
badass. There's no way I would have fucking done that.
Yeah, she definitely fucks over Tamlin in the next book, but I support her.
In the best way. She was like, "Imma get Ianthe, Imma get Tamlin, Imma get the King of Hybern, I'm gonna kill these fucking weird ass twins that pop up in the next book.
Oh
I started
god.
to High Lady of the Night Court now, bitches. I'm gonna infiltrate and take this shit down from the inside out, and I have to put some respect on her name, but I do think that, to be fair, she did that willingly because I do feel like there was another option for her, just to be 100%, like, she didn't have to go down like that. She was determined to make that happen. Yeah, and her acting, oh yeah, Oscars for her and Rhysand. Come on.
Speaking of Rhysand, I think this is my favorite Rhysand moment ever in all of the books is when he punches Tamlin.
Oh
I
yeah.
love that for him. Like, what
Oh,
an
hell yeah.
amazing moment.
Yeah, yeah. Because it's like, these 2 could battle it out with magic and their full powers, and we know Reese is gonna win. Reese could go into his mind and make him do something crazy. Reese clearly has the upper hand, but just a good old-fashioned classic punch to the face, like, "You hurt my woman, I'm gonna fucking deck you, you're an asshole." Not just hurt my woman, but we know that the beef between the 2 of them goes way back. So just, like, that
Yeah.
release of just punching this guy who's fucked you over every chance that he gets, just, like, decking him. Good for you, Reese. That's a fun moment. But also the trust that he has in Feyre, it just I don't know. This is the part of Reese that just, like, really made me love Reese when I first got into these books. The trust he puts in Feyre, making her High Lady of the Night Court without asking anybody, telling anybody. He's just, "This is my woman. She's my equal in every way. She's gonna sit beside me, and we're gonna do this life together. She's not gonna be some child rearing, stay at home, has to do whatever I tell her to do wife. We are gonna be partners in this." And then the trust that he has in her to let her go in that situation and to play along with her. Because even though I know what's going to happen, when I'm rereading that chapter where she's begging the King of Hybern to break their bond and he's begging her not to do it, I'm believing the whole time that he's no, don't do it. And no, he's acting like he knows what
Mhm.
Feyre's doing. He knows what really happened, but he's acting so well, playing his part to really sell the whole, "Oh, their bond is broken" connection type thing, and it's just I don't know, like, having that kinda trust in your partner to allow them to go back and put themselves not only in what could be a dangerous situation, but to go back to the man that she was with before you, it's pretty big. He's a badass. I love Reese, but yeah, this is still where I'm in my full, like, Reese is the shit before shit starts to go a little south in the later books. So, yeah.
Fair, fair.
I do love that we get Rice's point of view in a book, and I wish that we got more of it. I hope we get more of it. I don't know. As much as I love Feyre, there's a lot of shit that I want to know from Reese's point of view, bro.
Yeah.
Like a lot. What's going on in that head of yours, bro? What's cooking up here? Because you know he's calculating, he's cunning, he's always 3 steps ahead, willing to do more than the average person to accomplish his goals. I know we probably will never get like a full Rhysand point of view book, and that's okay, but I would have wished that throughout these books we would have gotten a few more of his point of view chapters because I want to know more about
Yeah.
what's going on up here.
Yeah, I like when books have different POVs, honestly,
Mhm.
a lot more than just, like, a book with 1 POV. I really prefer when it's, like, at least 2 characters, if not
Interesting.
more.
Interesting. I don't necessarily I think it depends on what kind of books, but I
Right.
get what you're saying. For me, I can enjoy a book that's one character POV, but I just when it's shit like this where we've gotten 3 books from one character's point of view and there's a bunch of
Mhm.
other characters, I do appreciate getting
Yeah.
some alternate point of views, like, what's going on in this person's head, especially when they're so involved in the story like they are in these books. So, same thing with Fourth Wing, like, I'm very excited to get some more of Xaden's POV.
So, moving on to foreshadowing, there's too much foreshadowing in these chapters because it is a conclusion to a lot of things that's been building up this whole book. But for some foreshadowing, we do get the main ones really is foreshadowing about the sisters and how their stories are going to be set up for future books. Obviously, like we talked about, they get turned into Fae, and we learn that Elaine is fated to be with Lucian. So that just sets up a fuck ton. And I just hope we get Elaine's book sooner than later because
Yeah.
would like to know more.
I think
But
all wanna know what's going on with Elaine, dude. You need answers. She's got the best setup. She's quiet, nobody knows anything
really
about
does.
her. She's got her pick of 2 hotties, and she's got this weird ability that we don't know enough about that everybody wants to know more about, and it's just she's got
Mhm.
while she's not my favorite character by any means, I she's might be the character I wanna learn the most about.
Same. Her between her and Asriel. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel like they're gonna go hand in hand as well. So we'll see, kind of like Cassian and Nesta did, whether or not she ends
Mhm.
up with Lucian or Asriel. I do think that both of them are gonna be a big part in whatever her book ends up being. So hopefully we'll get some answers there. We were talking about earlier, I do have a lot of questions about more that I'd like to get some answers to as well. And then, yeah, the only other foreshadowing that we really get in this part is just straight up the end with Feyre's point of view chapter and Rhysand's point of view chapter where I don't even know if I'd call it foreshadowing. They just both blatantly lay out what they're about to do and how they're about to infiltrate the spring court and fuck it up, basically, which is part 1 of Aquawar is if you've read it, I can't actually wait to get to it and talk about it. But yeah, like that's literally like Reese declaring war is a big deal because everything they've been doing to get to this point is trying to avoid the declaration of war. Like, they were trying not to go to war unless they absolutely had to. So that is a big deal. But other than that, it's just pretty much them laying out Pharaoh's going to go spy on the spring court. She's going to send any information about Highburn, Tamlin, the queens, anything that could help them down the bond to resand them so they can plan war and basically have a plan against these fucking people, these terrible people in the next book. So it is very exciting. Akawar War is a very apt title for the next book because it's literally the culmination
Mhm.
of all of these books in a war. So excited to talk about that one. It'll be a different kind of book. It's like very much like Akatar is the setup, and then this is like the romance book, and then Akawar is
Mhm.
like the political, like war more
Yeah.
book. It's I'm excited. I'm excited about it.
I'm excited about Aquawar because out of the first 3, Aquawar is my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm excited. I fucking love Aquawar. It's so fucking good.
Yeah, it is really good. It is really good. We all know that this one's my favorite, but Akawar is an excellent, excellent book.
It's
But all right, guys, with that being said, we're done with foreshadowing and theme. Sorry, like last week, there's not the most going on here. Ellie said it is really the end of a book and more of a lot of revelations and endings to things versus foreshadowing what's coming next. There's not much more to talk on there. We want to go ahead and give a spoiler warning now. We're about to get into our theories and connections. So thank you for being here with us this far. But if you haven't read all of the books in the Sarah J. Maas universe, including the latest House of Flame and Shadow and all of Throne of Glass, then you will want to go ahead and take your leave now. Come back and listen to us talk about these theories when you've read all the books and you are up to date. But for now, we don't want to spoil anything for anybody. So we'll see you guys next week when we talk about Lightlark. All right. Bye.
the one theory that I want to bring up in these span of chapters that it's not so much of a theory, it's just I don't know what this fucking means. But the King of Hyber's castle is described as, quote, but it felt old, as if it were a spider that had been waiting in its web for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Okay. And then also his eyes are black. And I will say that I will be highly annoyed if all these villains are really just Falk this whole time.
Yeah.
I will be like, damn, it's a little bit convenient
Yeah.
for my taste. So I'm like, okay, you have Amarantha being described as a spider. And also now the fucking King of Hybern's castle
Yeah.
is described like a spider. Is that what this is gonna be?
But it wouldn't make sense. Amarantha was
It
his
would make sense.
right-hand woman, so it would
Fucking
make
sense.
sense if they were connected as far as Vogue. Now, I don't think that that necessarily means that, like, just all villains I don't think Ianthe's a Vogue. I'm trying to think of other big villains. Tamlin's not a Vogue, but he's also not, like, a villain. He's just a inconvenience. But I'm trying to think. As Throne of Glass goes, we know that's done. So we know Erewhon, we know Maeve, we know all those people were Vogue. And as far as House of Flame and Shadow goes, as of right now, we're being led to believe that the Asteri are basically also Vogue, Daglin, whatever. But I do think it's very interesting that while they're trying to say that the Asteri are Daglin, and that means that they know what Daglin are. Nobody's over here saying that the King of Hybern or Amarantha were probably Daglin or Vogue, unless that these are all something different or they're just willfully obtuse. Something's not adding up. Something's not adding up there. You know what I mean? Because if they have a word for this and they were to know, oh, it sounds like she's describing the Daglin, nobody would have been like, oh, this guy is also like that. So Amryn and Brees are the ones who tell Bryce that the Asteria are the Daglin.
Yeah,
That means they know what the Daglin are.
right.
So if they've met the King of Hybern and they spent 50 years with Amarantha, not
Mhm.
just spent with her, but with like her consort, basically, you don't think Reese would have been like, wow, this bitch is a Daglin or like a Asteria or a
Yeah,
Valg or whatever? It would be really interesting if he didn't notice that they were, or even say that he didn't think about it when Amryn brought this up.
mhm.
I mean, granted, we haven't really gotten a lot about Reese's point of view. Maybe he does think this, but it's just like, how would he not make that connection to be like, holy shit, you know what? That sounds a lot like what Amarantha was too. Because I do agree, it's very much written like the spider connections, the black eyes. I think I like the heads having to be cut off. We know that Nesta cuts the King of Hybern's head off. She cuts off the Steery Valg under the prison. We know that that's how they have to be killed. There is a lot of coincidences there, but it's also kind of, I don't know if it's a plot hole or what it is, but it's just weird to me that nobody would be like, oh, that's what these two people were too.
Low-key, it could be a plot hole just because it's unfortunately, with these books, there are plot holes. Like, that doesn't make fucking sense at all.
Yeah.
Unless the Assyri aren't Daglan, but I don't fucking know. That would be a whole, like, why would you say that?
Right. I don't think that they are. We know that. I think that there's something different. I think that there's like a miscommunication there because to be fair, they're just going off of what Bryce said. They never saw these people. And I think that it's been pointed out by a few people that when Nesta and Bryce killed the Daglin Vogue under the prison, it's different than when Bryce fights the Asteri later. They bleed different colors. The way that she kills them is different. So I am still leaning towards the fact that the Asteri are not actually the Vogue. I think that there's something different.
Maybe.
I think I've said this. So I definitely would understand. Like I can wrap my mind around that. But I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard for me to be like, oh, that is a blatant plot hole because it's an unfinished series. And it's so hard to be like, oh, what's a plot hole and what's purposely misdirecting people and what's purposely
Mhm.
like being left out. And then it's also hard to gauge, was it a plot hole? And then she was able to fix it because people pointed it out. And then she's writing the books like she could fix it in the future. No one will ever really know until the books are all
Mhm.
finished and we've read them and we understand everything that's going on, and so that does make it tough, and I hate to just be like, "Oh, that's a plot hole," but it does not make sense to me as of right now. If you guys know that these things exist and this is how she's setting it up for these people to also be these things, not setting it up, but, like, alluding to the fact that they might be by comparing to them to spiders, to pointing out that they have dark eyes, that they have black I don't know. I don't think I don't remember if either of these people bleed black, but, like, just these
I don't
similarities
either,
came up
actually.
but, yeah, it does make it a little bit like, "Hmm, what's actually going on there?" I don't write anything off. How did they kill Amarantha? Did they cut her head off? Or did they just Tamlin did
I
Tamlin cut her
wanna
head
say,
off?
yeah, technically, she was beheaded by Tamlin because he ripped out her throat, which I would
Mhm, which is
basically
considering of
feel like
yeah,
your head would probably come off.
yeah. So, I feel like
Like,
there's too many connections here. We're right, but it also just doesn't make sense to me that, like,
that makes
how does
sense.
nobody else realize that this is what's going on? Maybe they're just like, by the time that the Daglin even come up, that the King of
Mhm.
Hybern's so far out of their head, they're not even thinking about it anymore. But interesting. Very interesting.
That's gonna bother me.
Yeah, that is a little bit of a because I love that theory and I think it makes so much sense and it has so much validity. But it's just then how does nobody else know this? What the hell? What the hell? What the actual F is going on?
Okay, I found something online that is worth pointing out, I think. Okay, but I still understand how this would make fucking sense at all. It just doesn't make sense unless, again, we just been like misled this entire time. Okay, this person on Reddit, I'm gonna shout them out since this is they're saying.
Mhm.
They're under the username Bethany77, and they're saying that they're wondering why the King of Hybern doesn't have a name.
Mhm.
And if that's maybe another nod to him potentially being Vogue because of Enthroned of Glass, Erewhon erased the King of Ardalan's name.
Hmm.
Maybe he's under the control of a Vogue as well and had his memory erased or something in a way. And then again, they do mention he does have to be like beheaded. But unfortunately, I can't find if it's ever mentioned what color blood he bleeds. But if it's black, just
Yeah. But
it's just fucking obvious.
that is a really good shout right there with the whole the King of Adarlan is just the King of Adarlan, and it's maybe he's not a Vogue necessarily, but he's, like, being controlled by a Vogue, or he has been like, there's a higher thing there because we don't know that much about Koshai yet and all of that, and I know that there are, like,
Mhm.
bigger villains that are, like, coming up into play or whatever, but that is really interesting because it's maybe he's not, like, the big bad Vogue, maybe there's somebody even in the
And
power.
that would make more sense to me because when I think of the King of Hybern, I'm like, yeah, he's a villain, but he doesn't like intimidate me like how other villains from the Sarah J. Maas universe would.
Right.
So I'm like, maybe he's not like the main. Obviously, he's not the main one because there's still gonna be more fucking books, which means there is another villain coming up that's
Mhm.
probably been building up this whole time we don't know about.
Right.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe there's gonna be some fucking crossover again
Because then my
with that.
thought would also be that if he is, then Amarantha also was, and that would also has
I
the
mean,
same traits
hmm
as, like, his
hmm
minion or whatever. Wow, I like that. That's really interesting.
it's pretty much like canon in my head at this point that Amarantha and the King of Hybern are Vogue, if not related to Vogue. But then that's just a question of then why didn't anyone maybe notice?
Yeah. Yeah,
I
exactly,
don't know.
especially
I'm like,
if you know what these
Asriel,
things are.
yeah.
Especially you,
Unless
Amren.
again,
But then again wait, no, Amren definitely sees the King of Hybern on the battlefield because I was like, at this point, she hasn't interacted
yeah,
with the
because
King
she
of
used to.
Hybern yet.
But one second, I'm trying to think. I'm thinking so hard about this because I'm like, okay, there's the Vogue, the Asteri, there's the Tagline, there's the gods. I'm like, okay, makes sense though because we don't technically get confirmation in the books that Daglin and Asteri are 100% Vogues.
Yeah, I don't personally think that we do. I think that they allude to it and they
So
guess at it, but I don't think, like, it's confirmed. But that's just my opinion. A lot of people
I know me and you think the Asteri are actually the god.
Mhm. I think they're just different, yeah.
So that maybe it would make sense then because that means they're not Daglin. I don't think Daglin is probably
More akin to
maybe
Vogue.
Vogue.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, maybe the gods have been working with the Vogue. That would maybe explain it a little bit potentially, but
Mhm.
I don't think the Asteri and the Daglin are the same. I really don't. And again, with what you said so many times, it's like, why the fuck would the first chapter of House of Flame and Shadow be like, the Asteri or the Daglin? That was what we were trying to figure out the whole fucking time. And like, when she released those fucking chapters, that's the first thing you said. You're like, why the fuck would she be like, yeah, these like evil villains are actually the Asteri?
It's just, like, putting it all
It
out
doesn't make
there.
fucking sense.
I
I think we're supposed to be misled.
yeah.
I think we might. I still think we're right about the Asteri being gods. That's all I'm saying.
I have yet to see anything that changes my opinion about
Mhm.
that, especially after reading Throne of House of Flame and Shadow. I feel that way even more so, like, the way that it all ended, how she actually ended up killing the Asteri, that final battle where she has to portal them and, like, the way that she kills them. Everything to me just leads me to still
Right.
believe that they're not just Vogue. I have not been convinced that just because she said it at the beginning of House and Flame and Shadow, that that just makes it true. I don't think that. And also, like you just pointed out, just why would she just say it like that? Just throw it out there. Oh, this
One
what
of the
this is.
first
It's
and
in in chapters that were released before the rest of the book even came out. Purposeful misdirect, bigger, badder villain in the background. Maybe Erewhon no, Erewhon definitely died, but I'm trying to think because he has 2 brothers, right? Maybe one of
great.
the 2 brothers is somehow in Prithian causing hell. I don't know, but something is going on that we
Something,
are not aware of yet.
and I think we're gonna learn what's going on really from Koshai.
Mhm. I think Elaine might be
I
a
think
big
that
part of it too.
me too. I think that he might be like the big bad.
Yeah, because we know that he is literally brothers and sisters with the Bone Carver and the Weaver, so he's but also there is allusion to them being Vogue of a sort. I don't know.
That's true
Death
because
gods.
the Weaver did believe black blood.
Yeah, and she had
The
like, the
pits of
young
eyes.
skin and the pits of the eyes, and she
Yeah.
was compared to a spider when she was crawling up the
Mhm.
chimney. It's alluded to there, and maybe there's different kinds. Maybe not everybody is whatever, because the bone carver also says that he was weaker than his sister and his brother, and that's why he hid himself in the prison to protect himself from them. So, maybe there's just more there. I know they call them death gods, but maybe there's I don't know, levels to this shit, bro. I think there's gonna be a big reveal, and I do think Elaine is gonna be, the person that really helps us figure out a lot of this stuff, because with a seeing ability is gonna come the ability to literally see the things that, like, are really going on beyond what's being right in front of our face, so I'm definitely really interested about that, and talked about in this episode a little bit, in the last episode, I just think that there's a lot of fate going on here and like a lot of whatever the fuck is happening. Like there's a bigger hand in the picture, like somebody moving pieces, if you will.
Yeah. I'm just curious if that's gonna be Koshai or not.
Yeah. I think Koshai
I
will
guess
have
we'll
something to
see.
do with it, but I don't know if he will be like, is he a world walker? We don't have enough information about him, so he definitely could.
Right.
He definitely could, but really interested to find out. And then speaking of like the whole vault, just what's going on, who could be a person to take them out. I think it's really interesting to point out that in chapter 68, when they come back from the whole situation with Hybern and Feyre's gone and with Tamlin and they're all back at the townhouse, More shows us a power that we have yet to see her use yet. And she literally begins to heal Asriel, and she does it. And as she's doing it, it's described as her power being light, and it's a white light as she touches him and begins to heal him. So, who do we know that uses light to heal people and would also have a connection to the whole like okay, let me just say, we know it sounds very similar to Irene. And also, we know that the priestesses under the House of Wind, they have a special appreciation for Moore, and they love Moore, and Moore is friends with a lot of them. And it is painted as she's the woman who helps them or whatever, but it's just very interesting that we know that Irene literally learned everything that she did from this Taurus Esme. We've compared the priestesses at the Taurus Esme to the priestesses in the House of Wind before. It just seems like there's a lot of similarity here, but specifically her power being described as light and using it to heal reminded me of Irene. And in this stretch of chapters, when Moore goes to attack the King of Hybern before he hurts Asriel, she goes to attack him, and he looks at her and calls her a queen and then says she would be a prize to have on his team, basically. What does he know about Moore that we don't know?
Yeah, that's weird.
It just it's too
Hmm.
similar to the description of Irene and just what she can do and how her power works. And maybe on a lower level, but like still. Also, then when combined with the fact that there's just so many things, combined with the fact that we know that basically Moore's family ruled the what is the Night Court before Rhysand's family did. Like I said, the whole connection with the library, the priestesses, having this respect for
Mhm.
Moore and this appreciation and love for Moore. Do they know about her power? Is there a reverence there because of it? Was the King of Hybern interested in her power and called her a queen and called her special because of what it is? The fact that he called her a queen specifically, does that mean that she descends from a line that would have been the high queen, high king situation?
I'm so confused of what the fuck does it mean that the King of Hybern calls her a queen and says she'll be a prize. I'm trying to think of like timelines. Cause again, the timeline isn't 100% official yet. So it's kind of like, I don't know what the fuck I'm going off.
Mhm.
Because part of me really believes that all of these things are happening like in a parallel world almost
Like
to each
simultaneously?
other. But then there's also what if Throne of Glass was first and then Akatar and Crescent City and there's able time travel. Like we don't know which one it is. Like
Mhm.
we don't know. There's different hints to both of them. It's so confusing.
Right.
What if maybe if the King of Hybern was being controlled by one of the Vogue kings, what if he has a knowledge of what Irene did to Erewhon and he recognizes that power in her? And that's why he's like, oh, you'd be such a prize if you're on my team because someone that had the same power as you was able to literally take one of us out.
That's what I'm thinking. I feel like it was a direct reference to that. Maybe he knows what her power
Mhm.
can do, and that's why he made
Hmm.
her stay the fuck away from him, but was saying, like, she would be a prize to have on his team. But to me, it's more so calling her a queen that I feel is acknowledging something that we're not quite seeing yet or whatever, something that about her family line, and because we know her family was supposed to be in power, and then Reese's family came in and based that. So it's like, what is he alluding to by that? Are we talking about way, way back in the day and she comes from some super noble Fae shit? Is she the descendant of somebody really, really, really important? I caught that and it just made me stop and go,
So I try to think if this makes sense. If Reese is related to Queen Thea, wouldn't Moore be too? They're not actually cousins, I don't think, but
Right.
they are related, but, like, distantly.
Hmm. Then that would make a lot of sense to me. What if she was Finn's or Fionn, some descendant of
Mhm.
one of them, or she could also be a descendant of Celine or whatever, because they were technically the children of that person. But he means by queen, because at that
I
point
mean,
there was a
maybe
high king.
do I need to see if someone made a fucking family ash tree? Because I'm like, maybe that's their, like, relatives
Yeah.
that they're related to, and then
Yeah.
after that, they, like, branch out. Because that was, like, fucking forever ago.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I'm trying to think of too, like, God, Throne of Glass is such a, some of it's really in here and some of it's really not. But like Irene,
Only 8 books, totally fine.
I know, but I can't remember where Irene gets her power from or why she's so powerful.
She's blessed by the goddess Silba.
Oh, that's right. So maybe Moore is literally a descendant of Silba,
Hmm,
because you're talking
possibly.
about God.
Oh,
We were talking in the last episode about like gods, like possibly being all of the high courts. Okay, okay. We've made the connection before that the High Lords could come from like descendants of Throne of Glass, right? We also know
yeah,
that the people from Throne of Glass are pretty much all blessed by specific gods. So what if
yeah.
it's also somehow all of the courts, the high lords, come from specific gods, basically, in Prithian or whatever. So all of them get their powers from specific gods. And that would maybe explain why maybe Hellas is more like the god of the night court or whatever. And then maybe like Silba, I don't know, because she's the court of nightmares, whatever. But maybe the courts are all blessed by these different gods as well. Because everybody in Throne of Glass, like we know that they pretty much like it's like a similar thing. They get their powers from the gods. So why would it be any different in Prithian?
I looked up the page for Silba, and it says that general information about Silba is that her symbol is the owl. And I'm like,
Okay.
does Moore have any symbolization owls? I don't know if she does. But anyway, the color represents her as lavender,
Okay. Okay.
and her element's water. And I'm like, that doesn't really sound like Moore, though, to me. But also, the one thing that does stand out to me a little bit about Silva is that you get her powers by going into her bathing chamber, which is literally called Silva's womb,
Hmm.
and it's on the lower levels of the Taurus.
I think I think I've talked about it on this before, but that also is very much reminder of when Nesta describes the bottom layer level of the library at the
Mhm.
House of Wind, and she describes it as a womb.
Right. Maybe because Silva's not alive anymore. So I'm like,
Right.
maybe her power is just kind of still in the House of Wind if it is potentially leads to the Taurus Esme if it's not the Taurus Esme.
Right. We know that
Hmm.
all of the gods in Prithian are dead, right? Or they're gone. They're not there anymore.
Right. Yeah. Apparently, they don't believe in gods anymore.
It's very interesting to me that the first time we've gotten 2 looks at her power at this point, and it is her
Mhm.
using the Veritas to reveal a truth, and then her healing using light. Other than her being strong and like a warrior, that's the 2 powers that we know that she has right now, which is really interesting that one of those is very similar to what Irene does.
I just have so many fucking questions about more. I have questions about fucking everyone in this book. I don't know shit about her power. This just opens up literally more questions about her. Also, like, where the fuck was she during Frost and Starlight?
Yeah.
It happened Silver Flames. I'm like, what do I think?
When Erewhon, like, meets Irene, does he wanna use her or does he immediately try to kill her?
If I remember correctly, I feel like he wants to use her.
I felt
I'm looking at the wiki page again about her. Bro, this whoever writes these, shout out to you. Jesus fuck, this shit's so detailed. We're right, because when Erewhon during the battle, the final battle of Kingdom of Ash, Irene's on the top of the fucking highest tower,
Mhm.
and she's sending out waves of healing magic, and Erewhon goes up there and is telling her about how his intention was to find her all along. And he tells her that in this world, those with healing magic are considered extremely powerful and dangerous, capable of unraveling the threads of life. Okay, I remember this now.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, yeah, I remember the
Hmm.
whole thing before.
So he was after her this whole fucking time.
And so for the King of Hybern to look at Moore and be like, "You're a queen, what a prize you
Ooh.
be."
That makes a lot of sense then. Damn. Okay, what does that mean? What does that like? I mean, for, like, future books, maybe, like, more is, like, end game.
I don't
Is she
know.
become the queen of something or the high lady of something, or
It's
is she
also
gonna be the one who saves them all? I don't fucking know, because Irene's kind of the one who saves them all. She is in Third Glass.
but it's also very interesting that Reese is, like, collecting these super powerful women.
What do you mean by that? Are you bringing up the Reese as a
I'm
villain,
not
Mary,
necessarily
or
saying he's a villain, but it just is very interesting to me that all of these people with these, like,
Mhm.
superpowers
The
I
most
think I talked
powerful?
about it in the last couple episodes. Reese knows something. I feel like Reese is preparing for some shit that, like, we're just like
He does know
he's so
something.
far ahead of us as far as what's going on. I don't know. How are all these super powerful people with these special abilities that can do these special things are ending up around him? And Amaranth does point that out, like I was saying earlier and the silver flames, like, it's more than coincidence that these people all keep ending up around you. What are you gonna do about it? And I don't know, but
Yeah. That's so interesting.
very interesting. And also, like, when you in description, if it say that it was to have something to do with the passing down of these are descendants or related to all these people from Throne of Glass, it would be interesting if maybe more is some sort of connection or kin to Kale and Irene. They're described as having the same eye color, weirdly enough. Irene and Moore, the super light brown
Mhm.
eyes. Other than that, that's obviously where the similarities end because Moore has blonde hair and fairer skin, whereas Irene is, I would say, more akin to maybe her hair is not quite as dark as mine, but she's got curly brown hair and she's got like tan skins.
Damn. That makes me really actually want a more book now. I take back everything I said earlier because that's so interesting.
Yeah, there's stuff.
At least not a more book, but I wouldn't be mad if the next or, like, the final ACOTAR books aren't just one POV. It's just, like, maybe multiple different not even POV, but just this is happening with this character, it's happening with this character, like how Throne of Glass does and stuff,
Right.
and how Crescent City does. I would love that instead of it being like, "Oh, this is, like, one person's POV of what's happening." Because I think toward the end game of all this, like, we're gonna need everyone's
I kind of
fucking
I
POV.
really agree with you, and this book
Yeah.
also shows that she's willing to put more than one POV in a book by switching to Rhys point of view at the end there, mostly because you're saying, "We needed to know what was going on at the night court, and Feyre wasn't there." So she had to tell it from a different point of view because needed somebody who was witnessing what was going on there, and it was important for the story to get that told. So I could at least we know she's willing to do that. You know what I mean? And the same thing with Silver Flames. That had to be told from Nessa's point of view because it's not like we could hear Nessa's story from somebody else's point of view. So
Right.
at least there is that idea that it is possible that she would write a book that features multiple point of views when it comes to ACOTAR. And that makes me excited. So that was a good one. Always, I feel like these last few episodes have been just leaving us thinking about possibilities and what's going on. But I would bet my ass that like not only these two things, like these two theories today that go together, and I don't know what it means, but I would say that it's a very real possibility in my mind. It's not just some like unhinged theory because we all know I love my unhinged theories, but like these have a little bit of validity to them if I had to guess or say. Now I'm still a little confused about how nobody put together that these were the Vogue if they know what the Vogue are or the Daglin or whatever. And so that question stays out there for me. We will pay really close attention in the next book and the books coming up to see if there's any other connections that kind of point this out or relate that it might be the case. And yeah, we're just anxiously awaiting the announcement of Akatar 6 because God, we need some more answers, man. We love you, Sarah, but like it's been 3 years. Give us something. Give us something. We do hope that you all enjoyed our discussion today. We finished Akamath. It's bittersweet, but also so exciting. In our next episode, we will be rating and reviewing Lightlark by Alex Astor. I'll go ahead and let you know at this time that we are going to be taking a little break from Akatar World for a while, but it's only going to be, I think, 4, maybe 5 weeks. And then we'll be coming back with Akatar in Akawar in June and start our coverage of that then. In between, we're going to cover Lightlark, Nightbane, A Fate Inked in Blood, and then we maybe have a fun episode to get us back into the Massverse before we dive in with A Court of Wings and Ruin. that being said, email or DM us anything that you guys would want us to talk about relevant to those books or those episodes that we have coming up. If you made it this far, please do us a favor and make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're listening on a podcast platform, take the time to give us a nice review or at least rate the podcast. And either way, share us with your bookish friends, let them know about us, and give us a follow over on our Instagram and our TikTok. We have a lot of fun content over there, us being goofballs, different polls, different discussions, a lot of information for you regarding what will be coming up on the podcast. So that's the best way to get all of the information is to give us a follow over there. With that being said, as always, we want to leave you guys with a quote. So today's quote is I was his and he was mine, and we were the beginning and middle and end. We were a song that had been sung from the very first ember of light in the world. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see you next week.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.